We're
Back.
Mr. E and Get the Kid reporting live from the Promised Land prison. We've been here 22 days now, and there's no end in sight.
You got that right. We are so bored and so hungry, and it is so dark in here.
You got that right, Get the Kid. But as promised here, we are delivering the news from a Promised Land prison. We have been captured by none other than Jabin, king of Hazard, the king facing off with Israel currently. Short of luck, on their way to fight Israel, they ran into, you guessed it, our news station, and decided that they would capture us, as they didn't know if we were on their side or Israel's. But we've gotten some information from them on what is going on between them and Israel. Well, here's Millie Graham with the inside scoop.
Hello, everyone. These guys are a little down in the dumps, but hey, this is a strategic spot to get a good news story. I'm actually liking it. Every day, the guards drop off my lunch, and I ask a few questions, just pretending to be curious, when really, I've been gathering information for this report. And boy, do I have some news on Israel and Hazar.
Take it away, Millie Graham.
Okay, well, you guys remember when Mr. E looked out his window claiming to see a giant army? Well, he wasn't kidding. I've discovered that this wasn't just Jabin's king of Hazar's army, but he actually had gathered Jobab, king of Madon, the king of Shimron, the king of Ashprash, the kings who were in the northern hill country, and Arabah south of Chinarash, and the lowland, and Nabathor, from the west to the Canaanites, and the east and the west, and the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Pezerites, and the Jebusites, and the hill country, and the Hivites under Hermon in the land of Mizpah. Whew, that was a mouthful. But it shows that this was no punny army. This was a huge, gigantic, dominating army, which raided our news studio. But when we went up against Israel, they went up against Israel. I thought there was no way Israel stood a chance against this army. They may have beat Jericho, Ai, and even those 5 kings, but not this army.
Yes, Israel is done for, just like we and our news stations.
You got that right, Mr. E. Yes, they are. Poor Israel. Poor us.
Would you two snap out of it? As I said, I thought there was no way Israel stood a chance. I didn't say they were defeated or that this huge army beat them, because they didn't. Israel won the battle. I'm hearing that Israel beat Jabin and this huge army they gathered. God defeated this army through Joshua and his army, and they killed all the other people so that the land was theirs.
So let me get this straight. Israel won.
Yes, they did, and it was only because of God.
Wow, that was a victory. God is really amazing.
But hold on. Now I'm wondering, if Jabin and his army and all the people are dead, how are we going to get out of this prison? What about that guard that told you all about all this, Millie Graham? Where's he?
Well, he hasn't stopped by for quite a while. I don't know.
Oh no, we're doomed.
Well, things don't look too good for the Promised Land news station. I want to take some time for us to think about some of the things that were reported on in that news report. And that's about Jabin, king of Hazar. You probably heard them say that several times, but we saw Jabin, king of Hazar, gathering up a lot of people and their kings from the Promised Land and preparing to fight Israel. So if you could turn with me to Joshua chapter 11. All right, Joshua chapter 11, and we're going to look at this army and see what our verses say about it. So Joshua chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5 to see all that this story tells us about Jabin and this huge army that he has. So look with me at Joshua 11, and we'll start at verse 1. It says, "When Jabin, king of Hazar, heard of this, he sent to Jobab, king of Madon, and to the king of Shimron, the king of Achshaph, and to the kings who were in the northern hill country, and in the Arabah south of Chinarath, and in the lowland, and Naphtardor on the west, to the Canaanites in the east and the west, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Jebusites in the hill country, and the Hivites under Hermon in the land of Mizpah. And then verse 4 says, and they came out with all their troops, a great horde, in number like the sand that is on the seashore, with very many horses and chariots. And all these kings joined their forces and came and encamped together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. So this was an absolutely huge army. All right, and I think the news report got that across pretty well. But think about it. They are compared to the sand on the seashore. And I don't know if you can see this too well, but this is a picture of a beach. All right, so if you've ever been to the beach, think about picking up each grain of sand, okay, or each piece of sand and trying to count them. That would be impossible. And our passage compares this army to the sand on a beach or the sand on a seashore. This is a huge army, and this army is gathering up to fight Israel. That'd be a pretty scary thing to have happen. And this enemy, they're not only huge, they don't only have a huge army, but they have horses and chariots. They have just great weapons, and it certainly looks like Israel's going to be defeated. And just like that, there might be times in your life. So think about your own life. And there might be times where it seems like things aren't looking too good for you. You might be in a tough situation. You might be going through a hardship in your life. Maybe your family's fighting. Maybe you just lost a loved one. Maybe one of your family members just died. Maybe one of your friends did something hurtful to you. Maybe you can't do something you think you should be able to do. We can deal with some pretty tough things like Israel was facing now. Certainly we're not facing a huge army about to try and kill us, but we can deal with some pretty difficult things in our life, just like Israel was up against right here in our story. Well, we find that Israel wins the battle, but it isn't because of Joshua and Israel, but it's because of God. God brings the victory, just like we learned about last week, that it's only because of God that they could win. Same thing for this story. Only because of God that Israel could beat Jabin and his huge army. And so too, when we are in those hard and tough situations that I was just talking about, we should look to God as He is there for us as well. God will see us through these tough times, even if it's not how we expect. He might see us through our family fighting in a way that we would never expect our family to start getting along again. So in those difficult times, we should pray to God and ask Him for His help. Ask Him to help us and to believe that He's in control and He's at work. So as we learned, Israel won the battle, and we see something very, very important about Joshua in this story. So the leader of Israel, we learn about Joshua that Joshua obeys God. All right, Joshua obeys God. Joshua listens to God. He follows God in what God says in His word. Why do I say this? I say that because we are told over and over again in this story that Joshua obeys God. Just like last week, we were told over and over again that it's only because of God that they could win the battle. Well, now we're told over and over again, it repeats it over and over again, that Joshua obeys God in Joshua chapter 11. So if you look with me at Joshua 11, verse 15, I want to read those verses for us. It shows us how Joshua obeyed. It says, just as the Lord had commanded Moses, his servant, so Moses commanded Joshua, and so Joshua did. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So Joshua was a man who followed God's word. He obeyed God. He did what God told him to do. And this is a very important thing, and we see that Joshua is doing what God told him all the way back in what we learned in Joshua chapter 1, in the beginning of this book. Look with me at these verses on the screen. Joshua 1:11. This is what God told Joshua before he entered the promised land. He said, "Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all that the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. And then verse 8 says, this book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. So God had told Joshua, follow my law, do what I tell you to do, and then things will go well for you in the promised land. It says that he would have good success. And we see he obeys God. My question to you is, do you obey God? We are to follow all that God says and seek to do what he says. It's fine if you listen to these lessons all the time. So if you sit here and you listen to these children's Bible lessons week in and week out and learn about these cool stories and know the stories by heart in your head, but if you don't do anything with them, if you don't listen to the commands, if you don't listen to what I encourage you to do each week or how you should live differently, then there's no point. There's no point if these are just things that you're learning about, but doing nothing with them. So as we continue to learn these stories from the book of Joshua, or even in any lesson as Sunday school starts back up, or if you listen to Pastor Reed's sermons, we should seek to do what these sermons or what these lessons command us to do. We should seek to obey God. Let's obey God in all that he commands us to do. So we learned that Joshua obeyed God. So we are to obey God. I hope you guys have a good week, and wait a few seconds after this. I have a special treat for you from the Promised Land news station.
Wait, guys, I just realized I have my cell phone on me.
Dude, so you could have called for help this whole time.
You have got to be kidding me.
Sorry, I forgot.
Oh, don't just sit there. Call someone.
Who should I call?
Well, you could call one of my two sisters, Candygram or Anagram, or my brother Teddygram, or my Gram.
You got to be kidding me. Are those really their names?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Okay, let me try them. None of them answered.
Dude, we're running out of time. We haven't had a meal for a while.
I got it. I know the perfect person.
Who?
My cousin, Randolphy.
There's no way he's answering, and I wouldn't trust him with that responsibility.
Hello? Randolphy? Let's go! I told you, Mr. E.
Well, are you gonna ask him for help?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yo, Randolphy, we need your help. You got a pen? Okay. Come to 1234 West Hazer Street. Take a left when you get to the palace, and then another right, and then another left. And then go in the back door to the prison. Got it? Okay, good. And hurry! He should be back here soon.
Whoa, what was that?
Is that him already?
Probably. He just got his license last week, and he probably crashed. But hey, he's here. You can always count on Randolphy. Let's go.